people here. I try and keep things sort of moving along so people that come in again and again and again don't get the same stuff. But what we're dealing with tonight is important because it's the banking. Is everyone aware of the Lawful Bank? Okay, we're going to find this quite interesting because is anyone in this room familiar with the Lawful Bank? Okay, so you've got an idea of what we're going on this one. I'm going to explain the Lawful Bank tonight, and some of you are going to leave with your jaws open, okay? Because if we can perfect this, if we can get this up and running, the Lawful Bank, we take back control of our country. The issue with the Lawful Bank is we need a critical mass of people. Once we've got the critical mass of people, I'm going to show you what we can actually do with it. But what I want to do is run through. What we do is we put these screens up, and I just basically read through the screens because this goes on the internet, okay? And we're dealing with thousands of people as a consequence of these reports. So if it's a bit laboured and a bit stunted because of me reading, well, that's the way it is. I apologise, but we get through it anyway, okay? All right. The British Constitution Group believe that we, the British people, have a right to govern ourselves, and not be governed by an amalgam of the foreign political elite and the British traitors. And of course, we're talking about the politicians in the House of Parliament who have transferred our national sovereignty to Brussels without our permission, without our consent. That's against the Constitution, it's against the law. Our right to self-determination is guaranteed by our Constitution, which Queen Elizabeth swore at her coronation oath to uphold and protect. In support of which all MPs have sworn an oath of allegiance to Her Majesty, and as a direct consequence that allegiance is to us, because the supremacy of the country belongs to the people. Not the Queen and not the politicians, it's the people's supremacy. Why then do we now find ourselves being governed by traitors and a monarch who has failed in her primary duty? The issue is, has the Queen failed because she's under duress, or is she part of it all? We don't know. Our assumption must be that she's under duress. That's the assumption that we make. The benefit of the doubt, as it were. Because it's we, and this is the point, why do we find ourselves being governed by a monarch and traitors in Parliament? It's because we have failed to stand up for our sovereign right of self-governance, and it is we who have allowed the duplicitous politicians, the elite, to get away with treason. That's the statement of fact. We have allowed them to do so. And who keeps voting them in?
We do.
We do. They're all sponsored by a mishmash of the ignorant, weak and pathetic serving in the police, the judiciary and the civil service. Even if they know what's going on, they're not inclined to do anything about it. That's wrong. The majority of whom are interested in protecting their generous salaries and their gold-plated pensions, and who simply do not want to rock the boat. That's their position. They probably do know what's going on. Pretty convinced in my own mind they do know what's going on, but they're inclined to stay quiet because they're all right, Jack. Okay? Well, we've got news for them. We're going to sink that boat, and if they don't abandon ship and join us, then we're going to find that they're going to find themselves and their salaries and their pensions on the bottom of the sea of betrayal, and good riddance to the lot. Our lifeboat is alternative governance. Our aim is to progress towards our own system of self-governance that will work for the best interest of the people and not the best interest of a wealthy elite. Throughout history, the wealthy have controlled things, and they have people like us running around like blue arse, you know what it is, and then getting all the benefit, okay? Our approach is revolutionary, but it's not a revolution. We are rebelling against the establishment by taking lawful and principled stand justified by our Constitution and the rule of law. We are taking matters into our own hands because the ruling elite have failed to look after our interest, because instead they've been looking after their own, to our detriment. The actions of the ruling elite represent a breathtaking betrayal of the British people, aided and abetted by an assortment of co-conspirators, the ignorant, complacent, and a large contingent of I'm all right, Jack practitioners. Alternative government is not a single action, it's a process through which we bring about change. That will impact on our lives and the lives of our family, our friends, and in a positive way. If we do not bring about change, then our lives are about to get worse, with yet more taxes and even less freedom. I'm referring, of course, to the transfer of controls across the United Nations and the global warming taxes that they're introducing progressively as of now. To bring about change, we must engage. We must do something. We must do something. There's lots of things that we can do. Turning up to meetings like this is the first thing. Educating ourselves is the second. Talking to our friends and family is the third. We can hand out leaflets or papers, that's the fourth. There's lots of small things that we can do. We do not have to march on Parliament. We do not have to do a whole range of things which are inconvenient and causes a great deal of loss of time, etc. There's small things that we can do. What I'm proposing tonight is that each and every one of you absorb what we're talking about, read a Lawful Bank, and with that in mind, go and talk to people, because if we get this off the ground in a reasonable time frame, I promise you it will change our lives, and very significantly. We have been dragged into a financial abyss which the ruling elite have determined can only be solved by redundancies and more tax, spelling mistake there. But of course, it won't be for them. There won't be redundancies in the House of Parliament, there won't be more taxes for the political elite, will it? But there is another way, and one that does not require a reduction of our essential services, but nevertheless it is radical. One essential element required in order to bring about alternative governance is our own monetary system, through which we can fund our own requirements. There is no need for redundancies or more taxation. In fact, to the contrary. With an alternative monetary system, we can employ more nurses, more teachers, and more police constables, and pay less taxes. That's a statement of fact, and this is the point that we're exposing. If we take back control of our own monetary supply, there is no shortage of money. And because there's no shortage of money, we don't need any taxes, additional taxes. TAMS. TAMS is short for the Alternative Monetary System. This is one part of alternative governance. Other parts of alternative governance are, of course, taking control of our own councils, taking control of our own judiciary, our own peace officers, our own vehicle licence registration, and our own land registry. All of these work in parallel with their system, but they pass back into the hands of control of the people. Okay? Right, what is TAMS? I'm going to read each one of these out and explain it where is necessary, and the idea is by the end of it you should have an understanding, a basic understanding of how it works, at which point I'm inviting anyone to ask questions. If a lot of it goes over your head, that's anticipated because it's quite complicated, and a lot of people are still struggling with the basics. Where does money come from? And what I propose is we can have a few questions and answers vis-a-vis where does money come from, and hopefully that will and a user. Members join via independent branches. That means that any individual and 5 colleagues can set up a branch. And we're hoping people all over the country will start setting up the branches. A money-making opportunity, because it's a profit centre. A bank, a branch is a money-making centre. So inviting people to get involved in their own branch, and then go out and get their members and offer loans and mortgages, etc., to individuals from which they will earn a commission. The difference between getting a loan from our banking system and the main banking system is ours are interest-free loans, subject to a fee. Okay? Our branches are operating in accordance with the Constitution, as agreed by members. Each member, 1 vote. The Constitution cannot be changed or provisions added unless there's a vote by a 70% of majority. So it's set in stone. To get a 70% majority is quite difficult. But if people are passionate about change, then they need to rally the troops and make change. We'd like it to be stable and continuous for as long as possible. Members can set up their own branches subject to certain criteria. Each branch would have to have security in place, so people coming to you as potentially a branch of a bank need to know that it's a credible and secure place to do business. Branches via its members elect the regional representatives to sit on an advisory committee. So that means each branch with its members can elect an individual who can come and sit on the committee. So it's from the bottom up, not from the top down. The advisory committee makes recommendations for members to vote on, meeting every 6 months. So the committee gets together, and if they think there's something that needs to be done, changed, provided for, they will come up with a recommendation. They will pass that back to the members, who will vote yea or nay. Okay? The advisory committee employs the managers to run TAMS in strict accordance with the Constitution, as agreed by members. So these people will invite applications for people to actually apply for the job to run TAMS. So a small management group of about 12 people who run the software in accordance with the Constitution. So these are your classic directors of a company, okay? And where the directors make decisions to run a company, in this case, we've got a committee that put forward recommendations, passed back down to the members, and the members vote on them, and then the managers or the directors of the business will actually run it in accordance with the Constitution and the rule of law. Each branch has its own managers, stroke owners representing its members. Members can change branches at any time. So if you've got a branch, and if you've got, say, 6 directors, owners of that branch, and they're providing a function for its members, for its branch members, and the members aren't happy, all they need to do is change branch. And if a branch isn't doing a good job, it will lose its members and it won't make any money and it will close. If a branch closes, and they do, they will fail and prosper on their own merits. If they fail, all the money in the branch or in that system is 100% guaranteed. And I'll explain how that works later on. So really a branch is about providing a service. They actually don't hold funds. What they do is they provide the mechanism by which you can get your mortgage, your loans, etc. Branches form themselves into regions. So as the system grows and we get more and more branches, what we would expect is for a number of branches to come together and create a region, decide amongst themselves who's going to be the representative for the committee, because the committee will always be just 100 people, a committee of 100 individuals, otherwise nothing gets done. Even that's going to be hard enough. A region might consist of several hundred branches. Branches will succeed and or fail on their own merits. Branches do not take deposits or hold money. They act only as a service provider to provide loans, mortgages and bonded-only insurance. Bonded-only insurance means there are no outside people making any profit. All the money that comes from the insurance, from premiums, etc., goes back in the pot. A bonded insurance is you put £500 down, and then you pay £100 a year for your premium. If you don't have an accident, your £500 sits there, but your premium per annum is £100. If you have an accident, your £500 bond goes. If you have an accident for £2,000, the differential is paid from the premiums. That's what the premiums are for. People who have lots of accidents would find themselves with a bond of £1,000, then a bond of £2,000, and it would drive them out. So people are inclined to be more careful when they're actually paying that bond. They're more careful to protect an insurance premium of £100 a year. Okay, it's open to everyone, even young people. So the writing is on the wall. If you have a lot of accidents, it could cost you a great deal of money through our system, and you want to use their system. And that's what we'd like, okay? Mortgages are provided on the basis of a fee only. A fee at this point in time will be about 10%, but obviously we'll come to that. Branches earn commission for providing these services. Each branch nominates its own network of retail outlets that act as cash deposit and withdrawal point. So we will have a whole range of retailers who will actually be able to provide money. You'll be able to go into a flower shop, go into your sweet shop, go into your whatever shop, and with a card, they will have a card reader, and you'll be able to give them the card and deposit £100, or give them the card and take £100 out from your bank account. So we're actually drawing on their cash reserves, on their float, to act as a bank. Now, because there's lots of them, it won't increase the amount of money they're carrying. So the security issue is something that we're dealing with, but because of the security, not here. Okay, I'm sure you understand that. So retailers will provide the branches themselves. As far as the services of the bank, they'll be done with the branches. So there'll be a place to do your paperwork, your mortgage, etc. And for nominal cash deposits and withdrawal, you just use your local retailer. Now, the position at the moment is that we do have an ability to access ATM machines, working on that, which will be enormously beneficial as well. But it's not necessity. It's not an absolute necessity. But we will be looking at supplying that service. So instead of going to a local bank to put your money in, take your money out, you go to a local retailer. Every time you have a transaction, the retailer will earn £1. So at the end of the day, a retailer might get an extra £20 a day, it might be an extra £100 a week. For small retailers, that's a lot of money, and that makes a big difference, okay? So we're taking the bank's profits into the local retail community. Retailers must account for funds, branches oversee this function. So as you've got money coming in and out of each branch, they have to account for the money that's been deposited or withdrawn each day, and that is actually then overseen by each branch. They have their own retailers, and the branch makes sure that they're actually overseeing that. Branches provide loans and mortgages interest-free, but subject to a fee of 10%, subject to review. It might go down. It won't go more than 10%, but it's more inclined to come down. But we review the amount in accordance with what's required to keep the banks in a reasonably healthy position.